Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel Echo of Life. Let's start. Someone who has endured more than their share will finally sink into a seat. A bus bench, a bed, the cool tiles of a bathroom floor. The place isn't important. What matters is the sensation. They aren't sitting because they're weary. They're sitting because something within has given way, softly, like a structure silently buckling under a weight it was never meant to hold. If you've ever been there, you know it doesn't shatter with noise. It just folds inward, a quiet collapse, as if the soul itself murmurs, "I can't hold all of this anymore." Those who have carried too much understand this moment in a way others cannot. And the strange truth is, you rarely see yourself becoming that person until life pauses you and makes you look. Someone might ask, "Why are you so undisturbed by things that should upset you?" And you don't know how to explain that it isn't calm. It isn't peace. It's the quiet numbness that settles in when your mind has been stretched far beyond its natural limits. It's the stillness that arrives after your heart has run one too many emotional marathons without rest. Many believe resilience is about strength. But for those who have endured too much, resilience feels more like a reflex, something you did because there was no other path. Because of this, you carry a presence others can feel, even if they can't name it. There's a gravity to you, a depth in your gaze, a patience in your listening, a weight in the silence before you reply. You learn to tuck your feelings into corners of your mind where they'll fit. You learn to keep walking even when your inner world is all storm. It's almost a paradox. Those who have been through the most often appear the wisest, the most composed. They seem like the ones who have it all together. But if anyone could glimpse inside, even for a second, they would see this maturity wasn't earned gently. It was forged, not cultivated. Extracted, not chosen. Some people grow because they are nurtured. Others grow because life denied them the simpler, lighter version of youth that seems to belong to everyone else. When you've borne more emotional weight than any person should, your mind reshapes itself. Psychologists call it emotional overcompensation. A nervous system, overwhelmed too often, reorganizes not elegantly but desperately. It adapts through hypervigilance. It adapts by bracing for impact. It adapts by anticipating the worst, even when the worst isn't coming. If you've ever wondered why you overthink, why you scan for shifts in tone, why you prepare for problems that haven't arrived, this is why. Your mind learned that uncertainty was a threat, so it built defenses you never consciously requested. And even in healing, remnants of those walls remain, like old foundations beneath a renovated house. Those who have endured too much carry an invisible knowledge. They understand how to read silence. They sense tension before it surfaces. They navigate conflict like one steps around shattered glass. They know how to soothe others while their own heart is shaking. They make themselves small when attention feels dangerous. They recover quickly from disappointment because life never afforded them the luxury of falling apart. These aren't personality traits, they are survival traits. Learned responses. Psychological autopilot wired early. Research shows that prolonged stress or emotional overload recalibrates the brain. It becomes more attuned to threat, reactive to subtle cues, aware of patterns others miss. People call it intuition, but often it's pattern recognition born of necessity. There is a tenderness in people who have been through a lot, a gentleness that comes from knowing pain not as a concept, but as an experience. This softness is sometimes mistaken for fragility. But if you've lived heavy moments, you know the truth. Softness does not come from an easy life. It comes from a difficult one. A life that taught you empathy by immersion. A life that showed you everyone carries something unspoken. This empathy creates a poignant contrast. You become the person who comforts others so naturally that no one realizes you've rarely been comforted yourself. You understand others because you had to learn yourself in ways most never do. You know how to offer warmth because you've lived through cold seasons. You know how to hold space because there were moments when no one held it for you. But behind that empathy lies something else. Exhaustion. A quiet, enduring exhaustion from being strong for too long. Not the kind you show the world, but the kind you carry inside. It doesn't always make you rest. It makes you retreat. It isn't healed by sleep, only by being truly seen. You become someone who can carry everything except your own weight. Someone who cares for others but struggles to ask for care. Someone who offers clarity but lives with unanswered questions. It's not about mistrust. It's that your mind learned early that relying on others was unpredictable. And for someone who has weathered too much, unpredictability feels like the edge of instability. This is why such individuals often become emotionally self-sufficient, even isolated. Their independence isn't confidence, it's protection, a shield. They learn to self-soothe, self-analyze, self-correct. Not from desire, but from necessity. The outside sees someone capable and grounded. The inside knows someone tired, sensitive, quietly overwhelmed. This duality shapes them. They become fluent in emotional contradictions. Open yet guarded, caring yet detached, hopeful yet cautious, emotionally deep yet selectively expressive. They don't avoid vulnerability because they dislike it. They avoid it because vulnerability has too often carried a cost. Disappointment, misunderstanding, imbalance. They learned that opening up is not always shared. It's a risk. So they reveal themselves in layers, not from manipulation, but from self-preservation. But here's the truth they need to hear. Nothing about them is broken. Their reactions make sense. Their caution makes sense. Their depth makes sense. Psychological adaptation is not a flaw, it is a response. The mind is a storyteller, and when someone has lived through too many difficult chapters, their story becomes layered, nuanced, rich with meanings others cannot see. And yet, there is something profoundly beautiful in the psychology of those who have endured. They are often the ones who love quietly but deeply. They appreciate small kindnesses over grand gestures. They notice forgotten details. They cherish peace because they know chaos. They value sincerity because they've seen the cost of pretense. And one of their most remarkable traits is this: they continue. Even with a heavy heart, a tired mind, an uncertain future, they continue. Not because they are unbreakable, but because they have been broken and found a way to stand anyway. There is a wisdom that comes only from surviving yourself. A maturity that comes from navigating emotions without a guide. A self-awareness born from being forced to decipher your own inner world. They carry all of this like unspoken chapters of a book they never meant to write. Yet underneath all the resilience, the depth, the strength, there remains a part that wishes life had been gentler. Not perfect, just softer. A version where they didn't have to grow up so fast, where their nervous system wasn't trained to brace for impact, where they didn't always have to be the strong one. Even without that easier life, they move forward. They show up. They carry a wisdom that feels older than their years. They turn experience into understanding, lessons into compassion, pain into depth, struggle into a quiet power. Because people who have gone through too much don't just survive life, they interpret it. They reflect on it. They turn their past into perspective. And in doing so, often without realizing, they become a light for others. They become the person you turn to for honesty, for calm, for a listening ear without judgment. They understand what it's like to carry what words cannot explain. There comes a quiet moment when they realize they see life differently. It doesn't happen suddenly. You notice that what rattles others barely shakes you. What excites others feels muted within. Your mind is always a few steps ahead, analyzing, preparing. At first, you might think this makes you strange. In time, you learn it's simply the imprint of all you've carried. They develop a relationship with reality that is both intimate and distant. They feel deeply, sometimes too deeply, yet can detach when it becomes too much. This emotional duality, feeling empathy while guarding vulnerability, appearing calm amid inner storms, shapes how they move through the world. They hesitate before happiness. They analyze comfort before trusting it. They quietly wonder, is this real? Even when things are good, not from negativity, but because their nervous system remembers when good moments were followed by hard ones. This can make relationships complex, not from lack of care, but from caring with a depth that feels frightening. You fear loss before connection solidifies. You imagine endings before beginnings settle. You apologize quickly, forgive easily, stay silent about your needs. When someone asks, What do you need? You may not know how to answer because you never learned to consider your needs without guilt. Their version of love is often steady, deep, fiercely loyal, yet cautious. They don't love recklessly, but when they do, it's with a sincerity that feels rare. They notice small things, sense hurt before it's spoken, show up in ways others overlook. Yet that sincerity makes them vulnerable, not to cruelty, but to carelessness. Not to hostility, but to inconsistency. Because inconsistency feels like the beginning of abandonment, and abandonment awakens old echoes in the nervous system. This is what many don't understand. When someone who has endured too much reacts strongly to something small, they're not reacting to the present moment. They're reacting to the echo of every past moment they felt unsafe, unheard, or unseen. Their body responds to old patterns, even when the present is safe. Instead of explaining, they stay quiet. They hide their triggers, mask their anxiety, smile through discomfort, prioritize harmony even when their heart is unsettled. All from a fear of being misunderstood, labeled too sensitive. Yet these same people often become emotional anchors for others. They offer clarity, perspective, compassion. Friends bring them their deepest fears, and they hold them gently without judgment because they understand in a way others can't. They became emotionally literate long before they were ready. This literacy is both gift and burden, a gift for deep connection, a burden because they feel responsible for emotions that aren't theirs. They absorb too much, internalize too much, become healers without intending to. And healers, if not careful, grow quietly exhausted. This exhaustion doesn't always show dramatically. It appears in subtle withdrawals. They become quieter, messages shorten, laughter softens, presence feels lighter, as if they're trying to fade without notice. When asked if they're okay, they smile and say, "I'm good," because they don't know how to explain the whirlwind inside. They don't want to be a burden. They don't want to relive it all by putting it into words. But there is another side to them, a strength that is quiet, enduring, profound, not loud or visible, but deep, the kind that persists even when tired. They've lived through too many emotional winters to fear the cold. They've walked through storms without cover. They've rebuilt themselves from ruins more than once. This grants them a rare inner resilience, not heroic but ordinary. The resilience to wake up, try again, trust again, love again, even when it terrifies them, even when their mind whispers it's safer to stay guarded. Because deep down, they still want connection. They still crave understanding. They still dream of softness, of a life where they don't always have to be strong. It's this hope, small, quiet, but persistent, that keeps them moving. What truly shapes them, though, is how they reflect on their experiences. They don't just live through pain. They study it. They seek meaning in difficult memories, find lessons in loss, clarity in chaos, growth in heartbreak. This creates a worldview both fragile and powerful. Fragile because it comes from real wounds, powerful because it fosters real wisdom. Wisdom that makes them patient, empathetic, able to see life from angles others can't. They understand complexity, layered emotions, untold stories. This perspective makes them forgiving not from weakness but from comprehension. They also carry an invisible grief, not always for people lost, but for versions of themselves lost along the way. The one who trusted easily, the one who felt carefree, the one unafraid of uncertainty. This grief doesn't break them. It shapes them. It makes them quieter, more thoughtful, intentional, introspective. It makes them cherish what others overlook. A peaceful morning, a genuine conversation, a safe presence. These small things feel sacred because they remember when nothing felt safe. And yet they keep growing slowly, quietly. They learn boundaries, self-worth, emotional regulation. They learn to tell instinct from trauma. They learn to open up again, not recklessly, but courageously. Because they are not defined by what happened to them, but by what they chose to become after. They carry scars, but also wisdom, pain, but also compassion, memories, but also hope. And the more they understand their own psychology, the more they realize something liberating. They are not fragile. Not weak, not damaged. They are adaptive, insightful, emotionally complex in a world that prefers simplicity, sensitive in a world that rewards numbness, thoughtful in a world that embraces impulsivity. Their mind is not a battlefield, it is a testament to survival, to learning, to the depth that can grow within a person when life has not been gentle. Perhaps the most beautiful truth is this: anyone who has gone through too much has the potential to become a lighthouse. Not because they're perfect, but because they know darkness. Not because they always shine, but because they understand what it means to be lost. And in that understanding, their presence becomes a quiet guidance. They offer warmth without expectation. They turn pain into perspective, and perspective into wisdom. They are the quiet ones who learn to live deeply, love slowly but fully, trust cautiously but meaningfully. They rebuild their inner world until it becomes a place where they can finally feel safe. If you are one of these people, if you've lived through too much, felt too much, carried too much, then perhaps it's time to realize everything you became wasn't an accident. It wasn't random. It wasn't weakness. It was adaptation, intelligence, emotional evolution. And now, even if you can't see it yet, you have become someone capable of creating a future far gentler than your past. Someone who can break old cycles, build new habits, choose softness without fear, choose love without losing yourself. A life where strength is no longer just a survival instinct, but a conscious, peaceful expression of who you are becoming. You didn't just go through too much, you grew through it. And that growth, even born of pain, is now your quiet power.